All right. Says we are live.
All right, then without further ado. Hi, doing everybody, and welcome to the Moffett on the Mic show. This has been a while, so I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering who the hell are these two guys, and that's cool. But I am Craig Moffett. Alongside me, as always, is the one and only Chris Klim.
Craig, it feels great to be back right now. It feels good.
So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. Klim and I, we might have some new people maybe checking this out. We hope you do check it out. Basically, Klim and I have been partners on the show for a while, but we've always taken a little bit of a hiatus here and there. And, Klim works for the fire department, and I have a couple of jobs. I do play-by-play hockey for the PAL Junior Islanders out in Hop Hog, New York. And I'm also a content writer for Jets Wire, which is part of USA Today. So I've been doing that for about a year. If you ever want to check out my stuff, you could check out the Jets Wire Facebook page. I have articles on there all the time. I could also drop a link as well as to where we are. But we had this podcast for a while. We took a little bit of a hiatus, and now we just started to come back. And basically the way this all kind of happened was it just happened to be one day when Klim just decided to rant about Notre Dame and the CFP. And that for me was just the idea to maybe put the band back together. And here we are. So you could follow the show courtesy of Instagram, my page at Moff on the Mic, and my Facebook page as well. You can follow Klim on Instagram and Facebook as well. I'm debating about a Twitter page. I don't like Twitter, to be really honest.
Twitter, it's all over the place. Twitter is
the problem I have with Twitter is it's the knee-jerk fans, and they're just terrible takes on everything, and they all think they know how to fix everything, and they have no idea how to fix everything. And
no, it's exactly, everyone's trying to be like, everyone Monday morning quarterback on Twitter. They're like, oh, he should have done this, he should have done that. It's like, it's real easy to do that in hindsight, but it's like, and everyone knows everything, like you said, when it comes to Twitter.
Yeah. So this show will be on Apple Podcasts. We're going to put it on as many areas that we can. That was one of the things that Klim has always been really good at. He just always finds these areas to download the show, and the rest is history. So we're going to talk. This is just our first show back, so forgive us if we're a tad bit rusty, but we are going to be talking about the big news of the day, which is most likely John Harbaugh, the new head coach of the New York Giants. We're going to do some Jets talk. We're going to get into a little bit of baseball talk as well with the Mets and the Yankees. Awfully quiet offseason for both teams, to be really honest. The Mets making more news for the players they lost than the players they added. The Yankees, very quiet, which is very surprising to me. You always kind of assume they're going to be involved in a lot of these talks, and there's still some time, so it's not really it's not totally lost. But, we'll get into that as well. And that's where we'll probably just end it from there. And just letting you know, we are trying to confirm it. We will confirm it soon, but looks like next Tuesday night, we are going to have our good friend and basically one of my personal favorites, Klim's personal favorite, and he has been all over Twitter lately into a war with some Jets fans. We are talking about the one and only Jay Gasman from ESPN Radio. He's going to be joining us. And so we're looking forward to that. We're going to definitely get into some Jets football because he has a lot to say, and not in a good way, about Aaron Glenn as the head coach.
I'm so excited to talk to Jake. And I'm kind of happy we established this relationship with Jake so many years ago. And it's we got to it's like when we go, it's crazy. It's like when we go to the cap shows and we get to see the guys like Bryce Young, Bryce Donovan, and we get to see him go on to AEW, and we get to see him go on to WWE. Well, that's what we're kind of watching with Jake right now a little bit. It's we saw him.
They've evolved.
Jake's
big time. Jake's big time.
Yeah, we saw him. We knew him when we did the other show, that shall not be named, many moons ago, and now we're seeing him do his ESPN stuff now, and it's great. It really is great to see him. Like you said, he's big time.
Jake's been a good friend of ours for a lot of years. We're excited to have him on next week. And again, it's just kind of just always awesome to still have those relationships, even when Klim and I have been on hiatus for so long, that we're able to get him to come on. So if you can, tune in next week. Next week's episode, we're definitely going to have Jake Asman on, and we're going to have a lot to say about the Jets. But let's get into the big story of the day, and that's basically, it broke early this morning. I'm pretty sure it's about 90% or 95% done. I'm not sure if it's officially done yet, but John Harbaugh will become the next head coach of the New York Giants. He takes over for the tandem of Brian Daboll and then Mike Kafka. He's a great coach. I won't take that away from him. He's an excellent coach. The Giants are Giant fans should be really excited for what John Harbaugh brings to the table. The one thing I will say is, and this is not really a knock on him as a coach or whatever, I'm curious as to why the Ravens cut bait. You see, that's the one thing I'm concerned about, because I'm not trying to, trust me when I tell you, I'm not trying to put out the fire or trying to kill the momentum, because I don't have that power to begin with. But one thing I will say is that for a winning organization like the Baltimore Ravens, okay, for them, after getting eliminated in the last game of the regular season this year, on a missed field goal, mind you, that's pretty much what got between the playoffs and them. And then literally the next day, Harbaugh was out. Now, the Ravens have been a winning organization. Eric DeCosta, the general manager, has been always highly touted as one of the best executives in the NFL. Steve, the owner. I can't figure out why the Ravens would all of a sudden let Harbaugh go, unless they had to make a decision between Harbaugh or Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Perhaps they weren't getting along. Perhaps maybe the players just got tired of Harbaugh. I have no idea. It was just a shock. It was a shock to the system for me, because you kind of expect a guy like Harbaugh go out on his own terms. I mean, he was fired, basically. Like, it wasn't really a case of they just let him go. They fired him right after the season was over.
And like you said, he's a great coach. He will be a Hall of Fame coach at the end of when it's all said and done. He'll be in the Hall of Fame for coaching. And I 100% agree with you. That was the one thing I said when he got fired. You don't fire a guy like Harbaugh, unless it's something internal. Something internal had to have happened where they were like, and like you said, whether maybe it was either Harbaugh or Lamar Jackson, or he got into an argument with the owner. We don't know. You don't see a guy like Harbaugh get fired. He would do like what Mike Tomlin did and step down as the coach. A guy like Harbaugh doesn't get fired.
Now I want you to think about this. Okay, we're going to go back to 2018. That's how far back we're going to go here. All right. I mean, Harbaugh's been the coach forever, so we'll just go back to 2018. So these were the records. Ready? 2018, he was 10-6. 2019, 14-2. 2020, 11-5. Then you go to 2021, he was 8-9. 2022, he was 10-7. 2023, 13-4. 2024, 12-5. And only this past year, he was 8-9. Now, in 2018, he was first in the AFC North. He was first in 2019, second in the AFC North in 2020, second in the AFC North in 22. First in 23, first in 24. He was even in second place this year in 25. It's very dumbfounding to me as to why the Ravens would fire him. And, maybe it's just one of those things where, hey, he just ran his course. Maybe it just wasn't working out anymore. I mean, I didn't really love I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact of I didn't love the way the Ravens offense was. The offense always seemed to be ordinary, even with Jackson, even with Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers. Give me all the random stats you want, but it's just what I see on the field. And what I saw a lot of times was in a Ravens offense that was just okay. They were very one-dimensional. They were just a running attack with Jackson and Henry. Mm-hmm. Lamar didn't really throw that much, and when he did, it wasn't the greatest. I mean, I didn't think it was that great. And the Ravens have talent at wide receiver too. I mean, the defense was horrible this year.
Yeah.
They were not good. That could be a number of reasons. I mean, the personnel looked pretty good on the field, on paper, but it just wasn't working out. After they lost Mike McDonald to the Seahawks when he became the head coach in Seattle, and is getting ready to host a playoff game on Saturday night, I think. They replaced him with Zach Orr, and they just weren't the same defense, which is just very odd to me. But I'm curious now as to who takes over that job in Baltimore, because we'll get back to Harbaugh in a minute. I'm not trying to go off course here. The fact is I don't love the coaching candidates. Tomlin is not going to go to Baltimore. A lot of reports are already saying he's going to take the year off and go to TV, and then come back in 2027. So you look at the rest of the candidates. You have Mike McDaniel coming off of losing another disappointing season in Miami. And the funny thing is, John Harbaugh kind of screwed Miami, because I really believe they were gunning for him. That's why they fired McDaniel. Because right after Harbaugh got fired, the Dolphins fired McDaniel like 2 days later. So there was that. Then you have Kevin Stefanski, who everybody seems to love, but he was 8-26 in his last 2 seasons in Cleveland. And you can blame it on whatever you want. You can blame it on the fact that he didn't have a quarterback. But that's his doing too. Are you telling me he has no input with the GM as to which coach to which quarterback he might want? He played a role in having Joe Flacco there. He played a role in having Shedeur. They drafted Shedeur Sanders. He didn't really like Shedeur Sanders. I mean, I think he was looking for any reason not to play Shedeur Sanders a lot of times, until Dylan Gabriel finally had a concussion and got hurt, and then they had no choice but to play Shedeur Sanders. But Stefanski finished 8-26 in his last 2 seasons with the Browns. Outside of that, I don't really know of a really good. This is a weak head coaching carousel.
Mm-hmm.
Harbaugh was definitely the best by far, by a country mile. And with Tomlin not being back, probably not going to coach. Who's really out there? Now, there's definitely some names, like some first-year coaches. Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator, is a guy. So is Clint Kubiak, who's actually rumored to be the front runner for the job in Atlanta after whether the Seahawks, make it to the Super Bowl or get eliminated. But for Harbaugh, now there are already reports that Todd Monken's going to join him in New York to be the offensive coordinator. There's apparently a rumor going around that Jim Leonard may be the defensive coordinator, because basically the Giants are saying, do however you want. And that's actually the right path that the Giants are going down, because it hasn't worked their way in a long time. And they're telling Harbaugh, here, you have every resource you want. Go get your staff. Go get whoever the hell you want. And most teams are afraid to do that. Most teams don't want to do that. Most teams try to have a say in who should be the coach and everything. So the Giants are doing it right. Now, where it comes to me with Harbaugh is, the number one thing he's going to have to do is he's got to protect Jackson Dart against himself. Jackson Dart is going to get himself killed because he has no regard for his own body. He doesn't slide. He takes a lot of bad hits. He's already been out of at least 2 or 3 games this year alone because of concussions or the possibility of a concussion. So that's going to be the number one thing right there. On top of that, this is a pretty competitive division. A lot of people don't want to admit that, but it's the truth. You still have the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 1 year removed from a Super Bowl. You have the Commanders, who should have a healthy Jaden Daniels back for a full season next year. And then on top of that, even though the Dallas Cowboys may not be the best team in that division, they still put up a lot of points with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and they'll probably bring back George Pickens. I'm pretty sure they'll bring back George Pickens.
You should, at least.
So the thing with me is that Harbaugh's going to a good division. I personally, if I was him, I would have chosen Atlanta. And I'm not saying that because I'm wearing a Jets sweatshirt and he's in the Giants. It's when you look at the big picture with Atlanta, you have Bijan Robinson, You have Michael Penix Jr., who has potential to be a good quarterback and exactly the type of quarterback that he had with Lamar. You have Drake London, who's one of the best wide receivers in the league. You have a very good defense that gets after the quarterback. And they play in a weak division. They play in a very weak division. Carolina won that division with a losing record. That's all you need to know about that division. With Bryce Young, who's not nearly as good as Baker Mayfield. So, but at the end of the day, he goes to the Giants. It's a solid move for Big Blue after, years. But, the funny thing is, and I kind of laughed at this too. So I was, this is exactly why I don't like Twitter. Elon Musk could call it X. It's Twitter. Okay. The minute this guy gets hired, the melodramatic stories by the media, by the Giants media, by whoever, are so off the charts ridiculous. There was one guy, I cannot remember his name. I think his name was Ian O'Connor. He's a writer for The Athletic. And the first thing he writes is, well, ever since the Ravens let Harbaugh go or fired Harbaugh, he's had dreams of running out of the New York Giants tunnel with the team. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So, John, you're telling me that the second he got fired, John Harbaugh was like, yeah, I can't wait to go to the New York Giants. Like, it's been my dream to run through the tunnel of MetLife Stadium and run out onto a shitty field with bad turf where players are getting hurt. I mean, like, this is exactly the type of bullshit. And it also speaks to the terribly biased reporting between both New York teams. Okay? So, at the end of the day, it's a great hire. He's going to have his work cut out from a little bit in his first year because the Giants defense stinks. They have a good running game. You hope that Cam Scatterbo, another guy who's got to pull it back a bit, runs too hard all the time, and he's going to get himself killed. He's going to be out of the league early if he doesn't stop because the injury against Philadelphia was bad. But just the hits he takes are just brutal. They're brutal. You may love it now, but 2 years from now, you're going to hate it because the guy's brain's going to be mush. Now, there's already talk that Malik Neighbors may not start the season. He might be on the PUP list because he's not going to be fully recovered yet from his torn ACL. So Harbaugh's got some work to do. They don't have a lot of cap space, the New York Giants, but they do have the 5th pick in the draft. He could definitely add another offensive weapon. A lot of mock drafts are linking them to Carnell Lake as a possibility with that 5th pick. Definitely possible. But we'll see. But I really like the move for the Giants. I think it's a solid move. I think they had to do it just because it's been years and years of just complete, everybody mocks the Jets a lot, and rightfully so. They do deserve it more times than not because a lot of the wounds are self-inflicted. But everybody kind of gave the Giants a pass. The way they report on both teams is night and day. The Jets are always looked at as the laughingstock of the league and everything. The Giants have the same shitty record as the Jets, and the Giants are looked at in a totally different light. And that's because they won a Super Bowl however many years ago, 2012. So you're talking 14 years as they last won a Super Bowl. So the Giants have made their fair share of crappy mistakes. They've made their fair share of terrible decisions. And then, of course, what happens is Dante Moore, who was supposed to be the number 2 overall pick, decides to stay at Oregon, which was an interesting move because Oregon just accepted the transfer for Dylan Raiola, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, from Nebraska.
Yeah.
So when Dylan Raiola went to Oregon, a lot of people believe that Dante Moore was coming out and he was going to enter the draft.
Yeah.
So the fun fact about this is earlier in the week, all like ESPN, like Stephen A. Smith, Dan Orlovsky are like practically pleading with Dante Moore to stay in school to avoid playing for New York. Okay. Which in my opinion is very irresponsible. You can have a personal hatred for the team all you want. Don't broadcast it on your stupid show. Because I'm sorry to say this, like, you're giving the kid bad advice. Because kids like that, Dante Moore, will listen to idiots like Stephen A. Smith. They will. And their agent will be in his ear. Now, Dante Moore is making a very risky decision here because he's passing up guaranteed money in the NFL for staying in school. And now I don't know if he's going to be the starter or not, because with Dylan Raiola there, wasn't that the whole point of him transferring to Oregon?
Yeah.
So what happens now? You're going to have a quarterback competition? And what happens if Dante Moore loses that quarterback competition?
I think that, with that, you got to just figure with Raiola coming in that Dante Moore's got to transfer somewhere. That's the only thing on the table, because there's no way they're going to have a quarterback battle between the both of those two kids, because they're arguably going to be top 5 picks in 2027's draft, the both of them. So
now here's the one thing I'm going to say, okay? Because I thought was funny was a week ago everybody was saying, well, Dante Moore should never go to the New York Jets. Should never go to the New York Jets. He'd be out of his mind to go to the New York Jets. So Dante Moore decides to stay in school, and now all of a sudden the narrative changes. The narrative is like, oh, that pick just lost its value for the Jets. Oh, my God. And I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Because one minute you're telling the kid not to go to school, not to come to the New York Jets, but now you're saying that the Jets' number 2 overall pick is not worthless, but you're basically sitting there saying that now what are the Jets number 2? Now the Jets can't trade out of number 2 because the pick is not going to be worth any value. So the truth is, so let's call it like it is. Number 1, if Dante Moore was coming out, he would have been the number 2 overall pick. We already know that. Because the Jets would have had no choice but to take him. They would have had no choice. You can't, it's like 2021 all over again.
Oh.
Okay? They had Trevor Lawrence. Then they jumped to number 2 overall. Now, you and I kind of debated it a little bit when we were doing the show back then. Everybody wanted Zach Wilson. Some people wanted Justin Fields that year. I can assure you no one wanted Mac Jones. No one wanted Trey Lance. So the Jets were put into a weird spot. You could roll the dice with Sam Darnold. And if Sam Darnold struggles and Zach Wilson winds up being a stud, you're just going to get eviscerated. Like you're going to get destroyed. Or you trade Sam, you go with the pick, because that was one of the strongest quarterback classes.
Yeah.
In a long time.
Coming out, at least on paper, it was.
Yeah. And the thing is, truth be told, even Trevor Lawrence up until this year wasn't that good. He wasn't the generational quarterback that everybody was making him out to be. Only this year did he finally show that. And he really didn't have that great of a game against Buffalo in the playoffs. But that being said, the Jets are right back to 2021 all over again. If Dante Moore comes out, you really have no choice but to take him. If he doesn't come out, there is a huge weight taken off your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can build the team exactly how you want. You can go out there now and go get Arvell Reese to try to lead your defense, or Reuben Bain Jr. You can go get a receiver. You could get Jordan Tyson, who's definitely looking like a better, some are saying he's a better receiver than Carnell Lake. Or you might be able to trade down, even if it's just a couple of spots. And maybe you see a player later. But there is a huge weight off of your shoulders now, because you know that they had no choice but to take Dante Moore with that number 2 overall pick if he had entered the NFL draft.
No, you're 1,000% right when it comes to that. I mean, I personally, if Dante Moore was coming into the draft, I didn't want any parts of him. Craig, you and I have seen the formula time and time again where we draft this quarterback. He's so young, this kid, first of all. He's 20 years old right now. We draft the kid so young. We give it 4 years. He doesn't develop properly. And then we ship him off. We've seen it time and time again. I did not want any parts of Dante Moore because I saw the Sam Darnold formula happening again, and I saw Zach Wilson happening again, and especially after the way he played in the college playoff game, I did not want Dante Moore at all. I didn't want him, but like you said, it was the Jets' hands were tied with drafting Dante Moore if he was coming out of the draft.
Dante Moore only had 18 starts at Oregon. It was guaranteed he was going to sit for the year. He was not going to start week 1 in 2026. So really, even if the Jets had drafted him with these, again, everybody telling him don't go to New York, the fact is he's sitting behind a veteran. He's not starting week 1. But at the same time, now the Jets can build a team around a veteran quarterback. They can build the team exactly like that. Their defense was atrocious this year. You did not have an interception all year long. Do you know how pathetic? You have to be on another level of bad. Another level of bad. Even by luck, you should have at least one interception as a team. A tip pass. Anything. Quarterback dumb enough to throw it right to you.
And we're going to get into it with Jake next week, hopefully, about how bad the Jets are and just in general. But when you say, just hearing that, it just blows my mind how the Jets were this year, because let's not forget our defensive coordinator at the beginning of this year was Steve Wilkes. 2 years ago for the 49ers, the 49ers had one of the best defenses in the league. Let's go to last year. The Lions. Lions had one of the best defenses in the league with Aaron Glenn as the defensive coordinator. Why was the Jets defense so bad this year? It made absolutely no sense.
It's very frustrating, and I know, and I'm not trying. This is the path that Klim and I went down. We are Jet fans. That's who we are. It is frustrating. I don't love the narrative of shitting on the team just to take the low-hanging fruit. I have a problem with that. You can criticize the team all you want, and it's fair if you really want to do it. But some people are just going out of their way. Yeah. Okay? And even players like Aaron Rodgers, who I loved when he was on the Jets. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed having Aaron Rodgers on the Jets. Aaron Rodgers was so butthurt by Aaron Glenn, his decision to not bring him back and the way he did it, that Aaron Rodgers still is taking shots at the organization. Even Davante Adams is taking shots at the organization. I mean, do you guys not have anything better to do? Everybody sits there and says, oh, the Jets are this disaster organization. What's the latest from the Las Vegas Raiders? Are you telling me that they are a better run organization? They are now on their 3rd head coach in 3 years. They just fired Pete Carroll after 1 year.
Well, yeah, after 1 year.
Insane. Geno Smith was a disaster this year in Vegas. They have no offensive line. Their defense is awful. And on top of that, they literally just alienated their best defensive player in Max Crosby by making him a healthy inactive for the rest of the season. And you're going to sit there and tell me that team has it all figured out? No. Do you think it's amazing how, to me, how analysts can sit there and say, Dante Moore should not go to the New York Jets. But I don't hear one of these dickhead analysts telling Fernando Mendoza, you don't want to go to the Las Vegas Raiders. What is there right now? Besides a beautiful stadium and maybe Ashton Ginty. What is there?
You and I have said this for years. It's just the media loves to just it's easy to pick on the Jets. That's what it is. We've been saying this for God knows how many years. The media just loves to pick on the Jets because they're an easy target. That's literally what it is.
But it just gets to the point where it gets so tiresome. like Rich Cimini posted right before he made his decision, right? Right before he made his decision, Moore made his decision. He said, you know, he was labeling all the reasons why Moore would not be a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. Then turns around after Moore makes a decision and says, oh, well, this is a huge blow to the Jets. What are you talking about? He was never going to, like I said, he was never going to start. Who cares? And the thing about Twitter that makes it the worst is it's the same fucking Jet fans who just sit there all day and they whine and they complain and they whine and they complain every 15 minutes about how awful this organization is. They worry so much about what other teams are doing. It's truly mind-boggling. It's truly mind-boggling. This is a good thing. I think this is a good thing. Because now Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn can focus on building the team through the defense, adding a receiver. You know, there are veteran quarterbacks you can get. But that's the beauty of it. Because no one wants to tell you who they want.
Yeah.
As the quarterback. Because they're afraid to make a mistake. They don't want to be like, oh, well, I really wanted Kyler Murray. And then Kyler Murray winds up sucking or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, I see what I mean. You know, what were they thinking getting Kyler Murray?
Yeah.
Like, I personally think the Jets are going after a bigger fish as a veteran. I don't think it's going to be Marcus Mariota. I don't think it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. I have a feeling it's going to be Kyler Murray. And I don't know why I believe that. I'm convinced. I am 100% convinced that all the Jets really have to do, if they absorb, if I saw his contract correctly, and I could be wrong, so, you know, please don't hold it against me.
Let me pull it up.
Kyler Murray has a heavy cap hit this year in 26. And then in 27, I think the money is non-guaranteed. And they can release him after 26. If I'm not mistaken. Could have sworn that's what it said.
In 26, he'll be making 22.8 million. And next year he'll be making 19, and then he has what says a club option in 28.
Okay. So Arizona wants to get rid of Kyler Murray. They don't want Kyler Murray back. They're done with him. The new coach is not going to take him back, whoever it is, the new coach. By the way, why the hell would you want to go there too? Right? Play in the toughest division in all the NFL. You literally have little to no talent on your offense or defense. Marvin Harrison Jr., in my opinion, has been a bust. And I know that because he was on my fantasy team this year. So that's how I know he was a bust. Okay? So what is driving you to go to Arizona? And they're not going to be in the market line for a quarterback, which they desperately need.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, there's options. Kyler Murray is an option. You may not love the option, but it's an option. Tua Tagovailoa is an option. You may not love the option, but it's an option. He's not a bad quarterback. He's not a great one. The one concern I will always have with Tua Tagovailoa is he is one concussion away from his career being over.
Yeah.
So if you're going to, and not only that, I wouldn't even help Miami. I have no desire to help the Dolphins. If you want to get Tua Tagovailoa, let the Dolphins release him. Then go sign Tua Tagovailoa. And maybe he will play with a chip on his shoulder. I don't know. Maybe Kyler Murray will play with a chip on his shoulder. Maybe not. We don't know.
I personally think I wouldn't hate Kyler Murray, but in my opinion, I think the Jets are going to go with like a Mitch Trubisky type, just to put a Band-Aid on the bleed for just a little bit, and then readdress in the 2027 draft when they have the 3 draft picks, and they're looking at quarterback like Archie Manning, CJ Carr, Julian Sayin, Dante Moore now, Dylan Raiola. There's a lot of good quarterbacks coming out in 2027, and I think you draft, let's say, like a Carnell Jordan Tyson this year in the first round, build up your wide receivers again, hopefully sign Breece Hall to a long contract, and then whatever quarterback we draft in 2027, then they're ready to take over that offense.
For a quarterback in this draft, you have to love that quarterback. You can't like him. It's like when my wife and I bought our house. We have to love the house. You know why? Because we're paying a 30-year mortgage on it. You're not going to pay a 30-year mortgage on a house you just like. Yeah. You're going to pay a 30-year mortgage for a house you love. It's the same thing with a team and a player. You have to love that player if you want to convince yourself. If you think for a split second that player is not going to be good, you can't take him.
Yeah.
Because if you take him and he winds up being crappy, then you've set your franchise back. You have to know in your heart that that's the guy you want. That you are convinced that he's the leader. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Mm-hmm. Same thing. Now, the other quarterbacks, I mean, Mariota's will probably be available. I mean, the free agent quarterbacks are terrible. They are
it's not good.
Beyond terrible. And the thing was, that was led by Daniel Jones before he tore his Achilles. So now Daniel Jones is pretty much damaged goods. You're not going to use him anyway. So he might probably stay in Indianapolis, but he's not going to make nearly as much money. But the rest of them, from what I saw, I think it's like Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, Flacco, Aaron Rodgers. But Rodgers is going to probably retire. Guys, quarterbacks that are up for trade, I know, are like Kyler Murray, Tua, Mac Jones is one. And then there's like an interesting one that keeps popping up, and I keep reading about it, but there's nothing on the guy, so you can't really tell if he's good or not. And that's Tanner McKee from the Eagles, Jalen Hurts' backup.
Yeah.
So but nobody knows anything about him. So you can't really trade anything for the guy. I mean, if you really believe he's capable, then fine, but you can't give out more than a day 3 pick for that guy.
Well, it's also like Malik Willis playing so great for the Packers. They were rumored to be like, oh, the Jets should trade for him.
No.
Why? Because he had one good game.
Yeah,
because he had one good game.
No,
that's what I like to call Matt Flynn syndrome. Matt Flynn, he came in, broke a record through 7 touchdowns in a game, and all of a sudden, oh, he's the next Jesus Christ. And the Seahawks signed him to a $40 million contract, and he never started one game for them.
Yeah, I don't want him.
That's what I call Matt Flynn syndrome.
It's not that I don't think Malik. The thing is, you can't take a guy like Malik Willis out of Green Bay, where he was just more of a backup to Jordan Love, and now you're thrusting him into the New York City spotlight.
Yeah.
With an impatient fan base that's about to stage a mutiny. And on top of that, a media group that will eat him alive if he plays bad. Because one thing the New York media does well is crush a player's confidence. Crush him like a bug. Like a bug. Mm-hmm. It happens all the time. The guy barely plays 3 games, and he's been mediocre, and right away it starts. The floodgates start opening up. The funny thing I say about Aaron Glenn is when they first played Pittsburgh and they played really well in that game, nobody was saying shit about Aaron Glenn.
No. Okay.
Then they played really bad against Buffalo, and people just kind of let it go because it was, after coming off the Pittsburgh game, they almost beat Tampa Bay if it wasn't for a defensive collapse.
Oh.
But then during the middle of the season, when the Jets went 2-2 and they beat Cleveland, they beat Atlanta, nobody was saying shit about Aaron Glenn then either. You can't judge the games after Miami because he was tanking. It was blatantly obvious when he went to Brady Cook for the last 5 games of the season. Now, when you look at it from Glenn's perspective, I understand what he was trying to do. But when you're a first-year head coach in the NFL, especially in a market like New York, especially for a team like the Jets, whose fan base is tired of losing, whose fan base is tired of constantly just having to deal with ridicule and embarrassment all the time, you got to win games. You have to play each game like you're winning. And if Tyrod Taylor was healthy, you should have played him. Mm-hmm. You should have played him. But the problem is everybody says the same thing, right? So the Jets are 0-7, and they're punting to next year. So they trade Sauce, they trade Q. Fine. Even when the Jets win games, to this fan base, they are losers. Because now all the fan base wants to do is play for the number one pick.
Mm-hmm.
So the woe is me act gets very tiresome with Jets fans because it's almost like they don't know what they want. Unless you go 14-3, you're not going to get any respect. This fan base is just going to give you a hard time. And it gets to the point where it's so like, hey, the Jets played really good against the Falcons. Oh, but you see what I mean? Now we're not going to get Mendoza. That's great. Typical Jets. It's just this woe is me bullshit.
Yeah, because people don't look at the bigger picture when it comes to that stuff. Like, look at the Giants. Yeah, they didn't win all the games, but you saw the fight out of them through when Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo became the starters. From then on until the end of the season, you saw the fight out of the Giants. You don't see that when the Jets were like punting it. It's like, oh well, there it is. There's the season. Like, it's one thing to be bad, but it's another thing to be like the Giants and be bad, but at least have a bright future. The only bright future right now on the Jets is the offensive line. It's the only thing.
I mean, let me rephrase that. I think the Jets have a good offensive line. I think they have one of the best receivers in the game in Garrett Wilson. I think their 2025 draft class was actually very promising. Malachi Moore, Azaria Thomas, Mason Taylor, before he got hurt, he could have had a 50-catch season, which I don't remember the last time that happened for a tight end in New York. And Armand Membu was one of the top tackles in the league. I think that Muji and Glenn should have approached free agency a little bit better. They should have been a little bit more aggressive. I think they went up for guys that were more of a roll the dice type of thing. And maybe that was by design. And perhaps that should have been red flag number one as to, are the Jets really competing this year? Because the outside of Fields, the Jets made no moves. Like, no moves that were of significance. They went after, everything was one-year guys. Yeah. It was all one-year deals. Jay Tufeli, Byron Coward, who got cut before the season started, Josh Reynolds, who was useless. They brought back Alan Lazard when they should have just cut him, and then he was non-existent in the offense. They literally had no players of any significance. It was just like a hope for the best, expect the worst strategy. And it completely backfired on them. And they know it, and that's what got them screwed. And the thing is the other part of it too is they did not play to Justin Fields' strengths. Justin Fields is not a pocket passer. He is a read option quarterback. That's what he does. That's what he does well. When you give him the open field to run, he makes a lot of people miss. But if you leave him in the pocket for too long, he's going to get sacked because he holds the ball too long and he's afraid to throw the ball.
Which is why, I was kind of when the Jets were hiring the new coaches this offseason, I was kind of a little bit shocked that they brought in Ekstrand to be the OC. Now I get it, he was great with the Lions, but now you have totally different dynamic quarterbacks between what Jared Goff was with the Lions and how Justin Fields was when he was on the Bears and the Steelers. Those are two. Jared Goff's a pocket passer. That's what he excels in, and he's great. He was great in that Lions offense when Ekstrand was the passing coordinator there. But now you're bringing in a quarterback like Justin Fields, who's mainly essentially more of a runner than he is a passer. But that's what he excels in. Like you said, he's a read option guy.
And that's where they failed. And the thing was I was expecting more of a running back by committee approach, which is what he had in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and we didn't really get that.
No.
Hall had 243 carries on the season. Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis combined for only 61. So it was obvious he really liked Hall, and rightfully so. I personally think that Breece Hall is very overrated. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I think his ego gets the better of him. And I think that for me, I just wasn't impressed with the way Breece Hall ran. And I was watching a reel, it was like a quick YouTube reel, and this guy made a really good point. I wish I could remember his name. He said, have you noticed that right before the trade deadline, how Breece Hall was like running like a guy with a purpose, a guy who was like going to play for that contract. And then as soon as the trade deadline passed and he was still with the Jets, he went right back to where he was.
Look, I do think the Jets are going to tag him because
they should tag him because you know what? If I was Darren Muji, I'd be a prick. And I'd basically say, okay, you want to be a little bitch and you want to complain all the time? Fine. I'm going to fucking tag you now. And now you can't leave. It's like in A Bronx Tale.
Now
remember when he locks the bar?
Yep.
And he goes, now you just can't leave.
Oh, love that.
So Breece Hall should be like, so Darren Muji should be like, locking the door at Florham Park, looking at Breece Hall dead in the eye. I'm going to franchise tag you. I'm going to screw up your free agency, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it.
Absolutely, as you should. And again, like you said, like you want, like even if this, like look, I like Breece Hall a lot. I think he's good. I think he's not really 100% utilized correctly. He definitely wasn't utilized correctly under Saleh. And you saw it like his finally like at least take a little bit step further. I do think he's a little bit arrogant, like you said, but I think he needs to be part of this offense in the future.
The only thing that I will say about Breece that they should have done more was they should have used him more as a slot receiver.
Yes, agree 1,000%.
Okay, that's where Engstrand screwed up, and I will give Breece that. But as a runner, I was not impressed.
No, he's an average runner.
He breaks big runs from time to time. And I know what everybody's going to say, because this is exactly another thing I can't stand about the Jets beat writers and the fans. They always take the side of the player. The player never accepts any accountability. The Jets want accountability. The Jets fans want players to be held accountable, but they don't hold players accountable. Or let me rephrase that. They only hold the players they don't like accountable. So they hold Justin Fields accountable because he sucks as a quarterback. But they don't hold Breece Hall accountable for doing more for the offense. They don't hold Darren Muji accountable for the team, but they hold Aaron Glenn accountable.
Yeah.
And when all else fails, go to Old Reliable and blame Woody Johnson, because that's what they do. It's just like, again, back to my previous point. Are they ever satisfied? Are they ever happy? I mean, it's just always something. And the thing is, look, the Jets have a lot to fix. I don't know if Aaron Glenn is the answer, but I can't fire him after 1 year and a 3-14 record. And quite frankly, 5 games at the end of the season that I can't even judge the team on. Like, I'll tell you a quick story. After the Buffalo game where they lost 32-8, I do a report card article for every game for the Jets, for Jets Wire. And after that game, I sent a message to my editor, and I said, listen, instead of doing a report card for this game, is it okay if I just do my end of the season report card? Because I can't grade this. There's nothing to grade. The Jets were starting Khalil Herbert in the last game of the season. Do you see what I mean? There's nothing to grade there.
Yeah, it's an F. Everyone knows it's an F from the beginning, from the start of the game.
But the thing, you can't judge it though. There's nothing to judge. Half the guys are injured. All the good players were sitting out anyway for rest because they didn't want them to get hurt because they think they're going to be a part of next year. There's nothing to grade. How can I possibly grade this? You can't grade after that Tyrod injury against Miami. The season that was it. The team, as soon as he went to Brady Cook, the season was over. The players checked out immediately. And that's the wrong attitude for these guys to take. What's it going to take for these players to just realize, hey, we got to cut the crap and we got to go out there and play like a team so people could stop making fun of us all the time or taking shots at us every chance we get.
Yeah.
What's it going to take? And that's including guys like Breece Hall, who get away with it because the fans love him so much. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to cater to their, All he's got to do is be like, yeah, it was, woe is me. And everybody goes, oh, Brees, I feel sorry for you, man. Like, I'm really sorry. Fuck that. Get your ass out on the field, man. But that's exactly my point. It's just like all the fans, all the beat writers say nobody preaches accountability on this team. Nobody preaches accountability. But they don't hold the players accountable either. Just think, if Brees Hall actually ran hard for 30 carries a game, if Justin Fields would have just got his head out of his ass and just actually played like a quarterback. I mean, the offensive line sure as hell did their job. If Jermaine Johnson would just get after the quarterback, if Will McDonald just get after the quarterback, if the secondary would just cover. But do you see what I mean, though? It's just like nobody holds those guys accountable because they automatically say, oh, yeah, see, they play for the Jets. That's the problem. It's an organization. For all the shit that Woody Johnson takes as an owner, he does everything these fans want, except lower season ticket prices.
Like I'll never forget years ago. I think it was probably, I want to say like the 2014, maybe it was 17, somewhere around at that time, when the Jets signed Tremaine Johnson as the starting cornerback for the Jets. People begged. We needed a cornerback. We needed a cornerback. What did Woody Johnson do? Pulled out the paychecks. Like, here you go, Tremaine. You're the best cornerback on the market. Probably, arguably at that time, the best defenseman on the market. Here you go. He did what the Jets fans wanted. And granted, yes, he was complete ass cheeks. Like he was no good, Tremaine Johnson. But he did what the Jets fans wanted. He did it. He catered to the fans.
But think about it, right? The Jet fans wanted Robert Saleh. He got them Robert Saleh. The Jet fans wanted Aaron Rodgers. Went out and got Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. Jet fans wanted Davante Adams. Excuse me. They went out and got Davante Adams. You can't sit there and say that he's not doing what you're asking him to do. And then when all else fails, after they shit on the guy, they're begging him on Twitter to go sign somebody. They're begging him on Twitter to fire Aaron Glenn. They're begging him on Twitter to, don't let this guy leave the building. It's ridiculous after a while. I mean, listen, Woody's a dope at times and he says dumb things, but here's the best part, right? He speaks the truth about Justin Fields. Remember that? When he made that comment about Justin Fields where he said, like, anybody with a quarterback rating like that, how the season's going to go? I don't know. That's exactly what he said, but it was pretty much the same.
Yeah, it was under that banner.
He's saying what all the fans are saying under their breath about Justin Fields. He's saying it publicly. And then every Jet fan ripped him for going after Justin Fields. Like, it's just, like, no matter what they do, it's always wrong in the mind of the national media or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
So the Jets, at the end of the day, the Jets have their work cut out for them. There's nothing that they can do. They have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of cap space. They have plenty of draft picks. They got to fix it. Because all kidding aside, Aaron Glenn needs to win 7 games next year to keep his job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can't bring him back if he goes 5-12.
No.
He has to, because in 27, you could have a lot of other coaches available.
And which is like another kind of thing as to why I didn't want to, going back to Deontay Moore, I didn't want the Jets to draft a quarterback when when going into the 2026 season, your coach is on a hot seat. Now, say they underperform and don't look good. Now you fire Aaron Glenn. Now what? Now you're going to bring in a whole new coaching staff for Deontay Moore? No, we've seen that time and time again as Jets fans. We can't do that. We cannot do that.
So, at this point, it is what it is. I personally think that Deontay Moore staying in school is a blessing in disguise for the Jets. Mm-hmm. And not because they're a shitty organization. It's just because there's no pressure now.
Yeah.
There's no pressure to make the wrong decision. You can now build the team exactly how you want to build the team. You want to go get Arvell Reese? Go get Arvell Reese. You want to get Jordan Tyson? Go get Jordan Tyson. You want to draft Carnell Lake? Draft Carnell Lake. If you think you can trade down a couple of spots, go for it. But everyone knows that if Deontay Moore was entering the draft, the Jets would have no choice, whether they loved him or not, to take him. And it's also leading to the same thing about Ty Simpson. Do the Jets take Ty Simpson with the Colts pick? You have to love the quarterback. You can't just sit there and you don't want to. It's like, remember when the Dolphins did that with Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill, they had no choice but to take Ryan Tannehill. They needed a quarterback. In a way, the Broncos had no choice, and they took Bo Nix. Luckily, it worked out for them because they're the number one seed in the AFC. But they had no choice but to take that guy.
Yeah.
So at this point, now that Moore is staying in school, I think it's a lot. Again, I'll say it again. The weight is off their shoulders. I think it's better than people realize. Listen, you may love Dante Moore, and that's cool. You may not like Dante Moore. That's cool also. I was pretty indifferent to it because this draft didn't – even Mendoza is not looked at as a can't-miss prospect, for the record. He's not in that same talk as Trevor Lawrence was in 21 or when Andrew Luck was in the draft. He's not in that type of – he does a lot of good things, but he's not looked at as that can't-miss quarterback.
Right.
Basically, the Raiders have no choice but to take him. The Raiders have no choice but to take him. Trust me when I tell you this is a good thing. Now Muji can build the team exactly how he wants.
Yeah, I'm excited for this all. I mean, I'm excited for every Jets offseason because I love planning what they're going to do. But it's like you said, I 1,000% agree with you. It's a weight lifted off our shoulders, and they can build it the way they want to build it.
All right, before we get out of here, we're going to talk some baseball. Maybe it's me, but have you noticed like each year the trend now where the top free agent is always waiting to the last minute? Or it's not their fault. It's not their fault. But they're taking forever to sign a contract because it's just being dragged out. Because more times than not now, Major League Baseball teams are just not comfortable giving these guys these $400, $500 million contracts anymore. Unless it's like a homegrown player like a Vlad Guerrero Jr. Or like with the Mets with Juan Soto for $765 million. This free agent class, it just, not that it didn't feel strong, but the latest story is Kyle Tucker is going to make his decision. This is like, I never thought I'd see the day where the Kyle Tucker decision was as big as the LeBron James decision when he chose the Heat. I mean, it's really weird. It's been all over social media today. Between the Dodgers, the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, and the Mets. The Mets are reportedly offering him a $50 million average annual value per year, which is the highest. Supposedly, it's a 4-year contract for $200 million. I don't know what the Dolphins are offering. The rumor is the front runner is actually Toronto for Kyle Tucker. Now, look. Kyle Tucker's stats, to me, were not great last year. They were good. He had like 28 home runs. I don't even think he cracked 100 RBIs. I think he hit like 260 or something like that, or 270. So the question I have is, he didn't hit 30 home runs. Are we really going to pay this guy $50 million a year? That's a tough one for me to swallow. Even if whether you like Kyle Tucker or not. Sometimes I think these guys are just overhyped.
Well, first off, I mean, to me, any signing that's not Pete Alonso is killing me this offseason. So it doesn't, whatever it doesn't matter. But like, I agree. Like, is he worth $50 million? I don't know. Like, is he a bad player? I'm not saying he's a bad player, but is he like a generational player, like a Juan Soto? Like is he like a Bryce Harper, a Mike Trout type? No, he's not. He's good. He's a very good player, but I think the Mets right now are, considering they traded Brandon Nimmo, they let Pete Alonso walk, Jeff McNeil's gone. The Mets are up against the wall now. They need a player. Then especially they need an outfielder. They don't have anyone. All they have is Juan Soto and Tyrone Taylor.
So the thing is that a lot of people were really upset about Pete Alonso going to Baltimore. I was actually shocked he went to Baltimore. I was thinking he was going to go to like Boston. I was convinced he was going to the Red Sox. He goes to Baltimore, which is an interesting spot for him because when I look at the Orioles, I don't see them as a contender. I don't see them as a contender. I think their pitching sucks.
Yeah.
And in Camden Yards, you need to have pitching. You can have all the hitters you want. If you don't have pitching, you have nothing in Camden Yards. And when you're playing the Yankees as many times you play in a season, when you're playing Toronto as many times you're playing in a season, and even when you're playing the Red Sox as much as you're playing the season. Now, the Red Sox offense took a major hit when Bregman signed with the Cubs. But the Orioles were such a disappointing team last year. And I know they kind of spent big on Alonso, and I think it's a good spot for him. I think he could hit like 50 home runs there. But it was just more of a shock that he went to Baltimore. And the other part of it, too, is, Klim, is that I was really surprised that it didn't look like the Mets were being aggressive for him. It was almost like the Mets wanted to turn the page and move on. And they wanted to turn the page on that entire core outside of Lindor and Soto, because mostly their contracts are not tradable. McNeil, I got tired of. I got tired of his attitude after a while. He was a very annoying guy. You know, was always having a tantrum when he struck out and, you know, and everything. And he was far removed from when he won the batting title, whatever year it was. I like Nimmo personally. I always thought Nimmo got a bad rap when he was with the Mets. When the year that the Yankees got Giancarlo Stanton, and when they interviewed Sandy Alderson, and Sandy Alderson said, "Yeah, but we have Brandon Nimmo." It almost felt like a cheap shot, we have Brandon Nimmo. Like, you know, no one knew who Brandon Nimmo was at that time.
Yeah.
And Brandon Nimmo, in my opinion, was a very consistent hitter. I liked Brandon Nimmo a lot, and his defense got a lot better. And he always had a good attitude. To me, he just always seemed to have a really good attitude. And they traded him to Texas for Marcus Semien. Marcus Semien, interesting pickup. When they announced it, when I first heard about that trade, I first heard about it through Jake's show.
Really?
Yeah. He was doing, I don't know if he was doing a live show, I think. And I think he was talking, it was right after a Jets game, I think. And he just said, "Oh yeah, it's a pretty crazy day with our first big trade of the offseason with Brandon Nimmo going to the Rangers for Marcus Semien." I thought the Mets were going to trade for Corey Seager. That was my initial thought. Now, in a vacuum, the trade helps the Mets because it's less years on Semien's deal compared to Nimmo. And I also didn't realize Nimmo was older. No, not older than Semien, but I was still thinking Nimmo was stuck in like the late 20s. He's like in his early 30s.
Yeah, he's like 31, 32.
Yeah. So, it was a very interesting move because it really signaled the end of an era.
No, it really did. Like, you know, in hindsight, like I get it in a way. Like, you want to break up the core because the core hasn't done anything. You know, we went to the NLDS one time, you know. And do I miss Edwin Diaz? Yes. Am I going to miss Brandon Nimmo? Absolutely. I've been a Brandon Nimmo fan since he was in Triple N. I loved everything about Nimmo, his story, his attitude, his hustle, everything. McNeil, you know, he hasn't been good since he won the batting title, like you said. So I get moving on from him. But Pete Alonso, you don't get Pete Alonso types every now and again. These aren't like, it's not like a candy bar. You know, he's rare. And I'm comparing it. You know, I asked my dad, who's been a Met fan since he was born back in the 50s, and I was like, "Dad, you know, you were around. Obviously, you were paying attention to baseball when the Mets traded Seaver. Is this like kind of how it is now?" He's like, "Chris, it's trading Seaver was one thing, but and then now not signing back Pete Alonso, it's up there. You know, it's
what concerns me about the situation with Stearns. I mean, I was fine with David Stearns taking over and making the baseball decisions. The one thing that concerned me about Stearns is that he's never really, I don't know if it's experience, but he's never really had a ton of experience negotiating big contracts.
Mm-hmm.
That's what concerned me about bringing David Stearns to New York. That he was going to bring that Milwaukee Brewer type of attitude or atmosphere to it, where he was, the signings were going to be mid-level, shoot your shot with certain with big deals like he did with Soto. But now this is an interesting kind of turn here for the Mets because the core is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you haven't really done a lot this offseason. You brought in, so far, the big free agents that I've seen, and they're not really that big. I mean, they're just kind of like, but they're team-friendly deals. It almost feels like you're back in the Wilpon days with Stearns because you gave Devin Williams $51 million over 3 years.
Yeah, we signed him.
Now, so here's the thing about Devin Williams. Before you lose your shit, Devin Williams was actually a very good closer from Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who kind of messed him up a little bit was Pete Alonso when he hit the home run off him in the top of the ninth inning. So, but before that, Williams was actually a pretty solid closer for Milwaukee. And I think that they're expecting him to do that in the National League. He had a bad year with the Yankees. The 1 year he was with the Yankees, he had a bad year. So Williams comes over. They bring in Luke Weaver from the Yankees. I think Luke Weaver will be good. I think he'll be a good addition to the bullpen. They add Polanco from, I think he was with Tampa last year, if I remember right. He's with the Mariners. Right, Jorge Polanco. And then they add Semien by trade. And I feel like I'm missing somebody that they added. And I can't put my finger on it.
Let me look it up.
And it was Semien, Polanco, Weaver, Williams, and that might be it.
So far it is.
So basically, now look, there's still time to bring in a guy like, the Mets were linked to Rainier Suarez. He signed with Boston. They're still linked to Framber Valdez, which is a surprise he's not signed yet. Now they're linked to Kyle Tucker. They're linked to a lot of guys. There's talk that they've been in trade discussions with the Rockies over Brenton Doyle, who would actually be really good for center field for the Mets. It sounds to me, and I was actually talking to a friend of mine, and my friend made a really good point, that David Stearns could be leaning on this young core that's coming up, starting with Nolan McLean, starting with Brandon Sproat, maybe even Jonah Tong. Although I don't know if Jonah Tong will make the Major League roster this year. Jet Williams, Carson Bench, just to name a few. It sounds like he wants to build this team with that young core that they've worked so hard to replace, to replenish that farm system. In my opinion, if the Mets wanted Tariq Skubal, they already made the deal for him. They would have traded him whatever they wanted. He doesn't want to break up. He has a lot of confidence in that young core right now. Yeah. That's coming up in the next year or so. And I think that that's why he has not pulled the trigger on a Kyle Tucker move. I think that's why he didn't sign Pete Alonso. I think he likes the fact that this team has a young nucleus with Acuna Jr., with Beatty. I know Beatty actually had a pretty good year last year. I thought he had a bounce back
second half of the year. Yeah, he wasn't bad the second half.
Vientos, I know he struggled a little bit last year. It wasn't his best, but Vientos is still, I think he's got talent. Alvarez, if Alvarez ever just kind of gets out of this like hit or miss, offense that he has. And I really believe that, man. I really think that they are trying to get this core. They want to stick with this young nucleus. So they don't want to hemorrhage a ton of bad contracts. They've already done that. And look what it got them. It got them nothing. It got them one trip to the NLCS. That was it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, listen, I think they should have done everything in their power to keep Diaz, but they didn't. And I think Diaz ultimately did want to go to the Dodgers. I mean, why wouldn't you? They're like, I mean, do I need to say more at this point? I mean, look how dominant that team is right now.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's surprising the Mets aren't more active, but you kind of get an idea of where they're going and looks like what the vision is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really think if David Stearns' job was really on the line, he would be doing a lot more than what he's doing. He wouldn't be making trades for Marcus Semien and signing Jorge Polanco. He would be pulling a Steinbrenner or a Dave Dombrowski when Dave Dombrowski would just trade away his best young talent for major league ready guys because he just wants to win a World Series. Or when Steinbrenner would do whatever it takes to get a particular player. George Steinbrenner back in the day would literally have no patience for Anthony Volpe.
Yeah.
If you ain't Jeter, get out of the way. It's the same thing. And I think that's like right now, I don't see Stearns in any type of jeopardy of losing his job, because if his job was seriously in danger right now, he would easily be doing whatever it takes to make the Mets a World Series contender. And the way he's approached this offseason tells me he is not focused 100% on this year, and it's more about keeping it stable for like years to come.
Yeah, and I agree like to you with that, because I see some of the prospects that we do have, like you said, like the young guys like the Carson Bench, the Jet Williams, the McLean, the Sprout, the Tong, all those young guys, and I like them all. And it's like you said earlier, just before, it's like he's kind of playing like we're a small market team, and we're like the Brewers essentially, where we're not spending big bucks. We signed Juan Soto, but that was a Steve Cohen signing. That wasn't a David Stern signing. And look, I still agree. I still disagree that we should have brought back Pete Alonso, because you can build around Pete Alonso. You can.
But the other thing too is Stearns doesn't want to do long deals. I think that's the other reason why Alonso's not back.
Yeah.
Orioles gave him 5 years. He wasn't going to go 5 years for Pete Alonso. No way.
Well,
he wanted 3. He wanted 3 years for Pete Alonso. No more than 3. Same thing with Suarez. Suarez signed a 5-year, $130 million deal with the Red Sox. He wasn't going to go 5 years for that guy. I know it. He wasn't going to go 5 years for Alex Bregman.
So this is what I'm like not making any, because every time the Mets sign a guy, I'm just like, it's not Pete Alonso. We could have done this with Pete Alonso. Like the rumor right now is Kyle Tucker, 4 years, let's say $200 million. You mean to tell me you wouldn't sign Alonso for a 5-year deal, but you're willing to give Kyle Tucker a 4-year deal? Like that's
exactly. But that's what happens when you pivot.
Sense.
But that's what happens when you pivot. Now the Mets
Right.
are backed into a little bit of a corner because the fans are not happy with the offseason. A lot of people are already writing them off for this year coming up. I mean, none of the other teams really in the NL East have done a ton.
Right.
I mean, the Phillies have, they brought back Schwarber. The Braves have made like some moves here and there, but they haven't really signed any big time players. They normally never do. The Marlins haven't really done anything, which is to be expected. To me, it's just, sometimes I ask myself if teams like Miami and Tampa Bay are there for like a tax write-off for MLB, because they literally do nothing. They do nothing. They build these guys up, and as soon as they hit their peak, they trade them. Tampa, I think, even has new ownership, and they're not even spending money. I mean, like, what's it going to take? I mean, but it's the only logical solution with how Stearns has approached this offseason. He's made a couple of moves that have been good. The money's good for the flexibility. Even though you have just because you have the richest owner in baseball doesn't mean you have to spend $500 million every year. Because obviously it hasn't worked. But you take it with the fact that you have a young nucleus that you're dying to see in the major leagues. You know, you're dying to see Jet Williams. You want to see Carson Bench. You want to continue to watch Nolan McLean and Brandon Sproat and even eventually Jonah Tong. That's what you want. That's what the whole point of this was, right? What's the point of building these kids up in the farm system if you don't get a chance to really enjoy them when they get to the show?
Right.
And I think that's what Stearns wants. And I think that is the ultimate goal is, okay, Polanco is going to get us through this year. And then after that, we're going to do something else. Yeah. And Marcus Semien is going to play second base for us this year. And then next year, Acuna is going to take over full time.
Right.
You know, same thing with Beatty playing third base. It just seems they're just making fringe moves, which is eerily similar to the Wilpon days. The only difference is the Wilpon days didn't have the farm system that Stearns has.
Right.
They didn't. They made a big splash, like one big splash, but for the most part, they never really splurged, and they're never big-time spenders. So you can look at the Mets offseason as disappointing. You can look at it as because you're expecting so much. And again, there's still a lot of guys out there. Cody Bellinger still hasn't signed yet. Same thing with, you know, like I said, what we said with Tucker. Valdez hasn't signed yet. But I have to think right now that the reason why the Mets have not been super aggressive, especially after trading one of your homegrown, or not trading, losing one of your homegrown players to the Baltimore Orioles, a guy beloved by this fan base, a guy who has given you so many killer Mets moments in his career. You let that guy walk for nothing. And I hate, and I know it's making your blood boil. I know it.
Yeah.
Okay? But I'm telling you right now, the only logical explanation to this whole thing is that Stearns has a lot of time. And the plan is to move forward with this young nucleus. Maybe starting this year, depending on how spring training goes for a few of these guys. But most likely it's 2027. And I hate that because I just want to see the Mets win a World Series. I would give anything. I always said this about myself. I always said the day after I die, the Jets will win the Super Bowl. Because it's just my luck. It's just my luck.
I always joke around.
Like, I want to see the Mets win a World Series. The Islanders are playing so good right now. I want to see them win the Cup just once. Same thing, you know. I mean, Brooklyn, not going to be a good team for a little bit, but there's talent. But, like, I just want to see one of my teams win a championship. I have not and the thing is, I can remember when the Mets won the World Series because I was 8 years old. And I remember watching the game with my family when they won the World Series. So I remember that very well. But it's just so I'm not even sure frustrating is the right word. It's almost disappointing.
Yeah.
Because free agency is supposed to be that time where, like, oh man, I hope they go get this guy. I hope they go get that guy. And the Mets have been, like, quiet. And so have the Yankees, by the way.
Yes.
The Yankees have been more quiet than the Mets. Now, the Yankees just traded for Ryan Weathers yesterday, which is a solid move, by the way. I like that move for them. But for the most part, the Yankees have been very quiet. And now we have a standoff between Bellinger and the team because Bellinger wants $177 million and the Yankees don't want to pay that much. And I don't know if I blame them. But since Bellinger is represented by Scott Boras is going to do everything in his power to try to get the best deal for his client. And the Yankees they kind of need Bellinger right now.
Yeah. They do.
So it's at that point where it's just very surprising because you always expect the Yankees to be involved in some way, shape, or form. You always, especially with Steve Cohen now owning the Mets, you expect the Mets to be like going after every free agent, And it's so surprising that the only moves the Mets have made this offseason are Jorge Polanco, Luke Weaver, Devin Williams, and the trade for Semien. Just middle moves, like nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, exactly. Like you thought coming into this season, oh, the Mets have the prospects. They're going to trade for Tariq Skubal. They got to sign back Pete Alonso. Like you thought all these things, and none of it happened. None of it happened.
And the thing is, if it was going to happen, it would have happened already.
Yeah.
They would have traded for Freddie Peralta if they really wanted Freddie Peralta. They would have been much more aggressive in going after certain players. There was a lot of talk about them being involved with Tatis because the Padres were trying to get rid of some salary. This is what I heard. It was so funny because I forgot the term was used. It was like not internal discussions, but it was it's like the way that they describe things. They try to make it sound like it's, oh my God, this could really be a possibility. But the wording is so funny because it's like, well, what does that mean exactly? Like, well, they've had talks about this guy. What does that mean? What does it mean to just, okay, so I summed it up as this. I think it was like one time, oh, well, they've had internal discussions about this person. And I said to myself, okay, so basically what happened was David Stearns and Steve Cohen were going to the bathroom and they were taking a piss. And then David Stern just said, oh, maybe Brenton Doyle's a good guy to have. Yeah, that's a great idea. It doesn't make any, like, I hate when they do that because it's like such a tease.
Yeah.
I mean, because you just don't know what's going on. You don't know anything. And it's so frustrating. And it's just like, it just drives me crazy. Like, it absolutely drives me crazy because it's like, and then like 3 weeks go by and anybody with a pulse now has a source that tells them something. I mean, you don't know until it actually happens. It's been a very disappointing, but like for the Mets, I think it's disappointing, but there's a bigger plan.
Yeah, there's got to be.
With the Yankees, especially coming off last year, and the year before that when they lost the World Series, and now, like, I don't know, man. It just seems it's very surprising that the Yankees just haven't been more aggressive. And it's just the case of, I know they still have Stanton's contract. I know they still have Judge's contract. They are getting Cole back at some point this year. They'll have Rodon. I mean, they have a good rotation. They have a solid rotation. They did the right thing in the last trade deadline, getting, some bullpen arms. Like they got Bednar, Camilo Doval. Mm-hmm. So those guys are going to probably play a bigger role this year for the team. But I'm just very surprised. And if the Blue Jays wind up with Kyle Tucker, I mean, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Yankees to bring in Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger could have a big advantage because it's almost like you have no choice but to bring him in.
Yeah.
Unless the Mets come in and swoop, because I think that's also part of it too. I think Boris is pitting the Mets against the Yankees, but I just don't know how much the Mets are really involved with Bellinger.
Well, right now the Mets need two more outfielders next to Soto because right now the only other outfielder they have is Tyrone Taylor and Jared Young. Those are the only two outfielders on the roster. Unless they make Jet Williams starting in center field and they just need a left fielder, I don't know, but they need two outfielders right now, in my opinion.
So there you have it. So that's the hot stove, which is really not hot at all. It's like cold. It's like cold as ice.
Warm, if anything.
Yeah. I mean, you get the signings here and there, but as a whole, it's been very disappointing.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot. I mean, there's still time before spring training. It's but it is right around the corner, and that's when you're going to probably see a lot of these guys signing their contracts.
Yeah.
Eventually, Valdez is going to sign. Eventually, Bellinger will sign. Eventually, Tucker will sign. I wouldn't be surprised if Tucker makes a decision by this weekend. And I also think, excuse me. I also think Bellinger's camp is waiting to see what Tucker does, and then they know exactly where it falls into place.
Right.
So, but we'll talk more about it. We'll have more shows on as we get closer to spring training. We'll definitely get into it. But man, it has been a very depressing offseason. Like it's been very quiet for both New York teams, which is very, very odd.
Great. It's not only that, it's just been very disappointing in general for all of the teams that we like. You know, the Jets, disappointing. The Mets offseason, disappointing. The Nets, disappointing. Notre Dame got screwed. You know,
Craig, speaking of that, okay. So really quickly, I have no problem with Notre Dame did. Zero problem with Notre Dame.
I have no problems.
Because I'll tell you why. I am a Catholic. Okay? And the fact is, Notre Dame does not want to play in a shitty bowl. They're not. It's a slap in the face. Mm-hmm. It's a slap in the face. That's just not how they roll. They want to play in a good bowl. They want to play in the CFP. They don't want to play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They want to play in the Music City Bowl. They want to play in a good bowl. Marvin Freeman deserved to be in the C. They should have been in the CFP. And then look what happened in the CFP. Fucking James Madison gets their ass kicked. What was the other team that got their ass kicked in the first round? Was it Tulsa? Oh, Tulane. I mean, like, on what planet do those teams deserve to be in it and not Notre Dame?
My thing was, it's like I don't even blame, you know, James Madison and Tulane. They won. That was the rules. My thing is that how you have Notre Dame ranked above Miami all season in the college playoff, and then they both play 0 games championship weekend, but somehow Miami jumps, you know, Notre Dame. Now I'm not saying Miami doesn't deserve to be there because they're about to be in the college football championship. So I can't blame them on that end of things. But like a team like Alabama, three losses. You cannot have a 3-loss team in the college playoff. And they got their asses spanked by Indiana.
Oh, I'm so glad. I hate Alabama.
I'm so sick and tired of Alabama. I'm sick and tired.
Alabama and Ohio State are my 2 least favorite teams out of all the teams. But I have no problem with Notre Dame stepping, being like, thanks, but no thanks. I really could care less.
Same.
It means nothing. If it's not if they're not in the CFP, I could care less of Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame did the right thing. I think Marvin Freeman did the right thing. And that's it. You could disagree with me all you want. That's fine. But Notre Dame, Notre Dame has been a school that just wants to play the toughest competition. They want it all. They're not going to settle for a bullshit bowl. Never going to happen. Maybe back in the day, but not anymore. So, all right, Klim, before we get out of here, you got anything else?
Yeah, we got a comment actually on our YouTube page. One of our old friends, Anthony Carragher. Very happy to see us back.
My boy Carragher, congratulations on getting engaged. I think his wedding is coming up pretty soon. But,
wow, congratulations.
Carragher's, oh man, for all you don't know who Anthony Carragher is, Carragher was the one person that kept us sane when we were at Worldwide Sports Network. Carragher was the best, man. Like I remember when he used to just pop in. Like he used to show up. He used to just show up on a Friday night at like 10 o'clock at night, and it was like, he's like, I'm in the neighborhood. I thought I'd come by, and we would hang out with him for like 2 hours. He's the best, man. Yeah, I love that guy. Carragher's the best. I'll tell you a funny story about Carragher. I took my daughter years ago to like Monday Night Raw at UBS Arena, and Carragher was at the show. I didn't know he was at the show with I think it was with his girlfriend, right? And he saw my daughter on the Jumbotron during the break because she was like dancing during the Jumbotron. He's like, "Yo, was that your daughter?" Right? And I was like cracked up, and I was like, "Yeah, that was her." And like, Carragher's the best, man. So I'm glad he's back. Hopefully, he keeps tuning in because it was definitely a fun ride with him on Behind the Barricade. The one time I went on, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, that was good. Like I said, besides the ownership there, the people we made friends with there were absolutely great.
Yeah, not a minute goes by when I don't remember Tyler Harrison just storming out of the studio while I was waiting to get in because I guess he got into with Guido.
That was like one of my first times working there, like because I was taking like an intern there. I didn't. He just placed me on shows, and thank God he placed me with you because I was like, I don't want to work any. I don't want to work on any other show besides with you and Matt. And I'll never forget when he did that when Tyler stormed out. I was like, is this real? Is this a bit? Like, what are we doing here?
I always remember one of the funniest things was when we got called into like those like so-called mandatory meetings, right? And when they were trying to read back like all the they were trying to read back all the like the number of times we shared like the shows and ranked in order, and we were like 5th, and one of the guy goes, "That's bullshit." It's like because you used to
I think it was Carragher who said
like,
that.
Everybody was like, "That's a load of shit," because we know that Klim is like sharing it to anybody with a pulse. And like,
that's literally what I was doing back then. Like, it was literally anyone who had a Facebook page, or I would just hashtag the shit out of it, and I got us that. And then, plus, we were the only ones who got guests, and they were like, end up 5th with like views and like shares and stuff. They're like, someone, and I think it was Carragher. He said, Carragher always stood up for my guy. For sure, it was me.
Everybody was like, "Yo, that is everybody in the room was like, that's bullshit. There's no way those guys were like 6th in shares." Like it just made us laugh. We were like, all right, whatever you say.
Such humble beginnings.
I was like, can we go now? It's like, I'm being called out here on a Sunday morning. What are you out of your mind?
And especially too, because me and you, we didn't live close there. You lived in Limco, I lived in Glencoe. It was
I was like, I mean, yeah, the traffic was light, but it was just like, I'm like, why am I out here again? I was like, But Carragher, we love you, bro, man. Thanks for checking out the show as always. Yes. So I got one final thing for me before we get out of here, and I'm going to take a shot at Giannis. Okay? And the reason why I'm going to take a shot at Giannis is because I keep hearing a lot of these stories about how Giannis wants to come to the Knicks, and Giannis prefers to come to the Knicks. And what I found kind of funny about it is everybody kind of tried to build up Giannis as like this real stand-up guy who was right, was the stand-up guy who's like, he's all about the Milwaukee Bucks and everything. And I want you to think about this. So now Giannis is pushing to go to the Knicks. I don't know if the Knicks will be able to make a deal. It'd be a little tough because they don't have the draft capital anymore. They just have a lot of pick swaps at this point. But think about Giannis in the past, right? So Giannis, the Bucks bring in Damian Lillard, right? They had a pretty good nucleus with Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. And then they hire Adrian Griffin, who was like 30-12. And he gets fired during the season. Now, the only way that's happening is if Giannis has a say in it. Mm-hmm. Okay? So now Giannis approves Doc Rivers, who's been terrible for them. Like he's been really bad. Okay. And now Giannis is pushing his way to try to get to the Knicks. That's what his end game is go to the Knicks. In my opinion, for all the talk that everybody talks about how Giannis is a stand-up guy, he comes off as a me-first player. He's kind of one of those players now in the NBA. I mean, they're everywhere. It's not even just about him. Every player is pushing to go to a certain team. And we're going to do a show about tanking, by the way, because I am anti-tanking, like 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I want my teams to win games. That's what I want to watch. I don't want to see this, this person being rested for this. But it was very frustrating. It made no sense to sit there and like, you're trying to get Giannis to be like, Giannis is like, oh yeah, Giannis is a great guy. He's the heart of Milwaukee and everything. And he's trying to trade himself to the Knicks. And he was not thinking about going anywhere else. It's another in a long line of these players in the NBA who just never seem like happy in their spot. Right. And the NBA has a big problem with that. Because none of these players, this is why like half the teams in the league have losing records. Because nobody wants to go to these teams. They're all trying to just pigeonhole themselves into going to either the Lakers, the Celtics, the Knicks. And I get it. Those teams win. They win. But I'm thinking about it more and more, and I'm saying to myself, man, Giannis is no different than LeBron James wanting to go to the Lakers. Or, I mean, God, name a player for crying out loud. Mikal Bridges pushing himself to the Knicks. Or who else? I mean, who else?
Anthony Davis for the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, there's just been so many. And like for a guy who was looked at as this upstanding guy, you know, team leader all the way, man, he comes off as awfully selfish, especially for a franchise that, with all due respect, has done a lot for him, has done everything they can to build a team around him. Right. I mean, even this year they brought in Miles Turner.
Right, and they did build this team around him. I mean, Giannis made basketball in Milwaukee relevant. Like he won the MVP there. He won a championship there. Like I get, maybe you think your time has run there. I don't know, but yeah, it does seem a little bit, you know, selfish. Like, oh, I want to go to the Knicks because they're going to win, or I want to go to the Celtics, the Lakers, Bulls, you know, the Nuggets, whoever it is, you know.
And me personally, I wouldn't even touch the Knicks right now. Like, I wouldn't do anything to mess with that team. Although I do think the team's a little on the top-heavy side. I don't love their bench, their depth. But as a whole, you don't break up that team.
No, you don't touch that team. You add pieces. That's it. You want to trade draft capital to get some pieces. So like you said, some bench pieces, fine. But you don't touch that starting five or anything like that.
No, like I wouldn't. I mean, I'd leave it exactly as it is. I mean, this is the nucleus right now that you're going to have to win a championship. Although eventually that window's going to close soon if they don't. They need to kind of take advantage right away, especially with the fact that the Celtics don't have Jason Tatum right now, and the Pistons, while they are the top team in the East, they're like a soft one. I don't know why I'm not so confident in them as, like, you know, this dominant number one seed team, you know. But I just kept thinking about that the whole time, and I'm like, you know, as much as everyone tries to act like he's a stand-up guy, you know, Giannis does come off a bit selfish on this one, trying to do everything he can. And I mean, I'm not saying do everything he can, but he's trying to push himself to the Knicks. Like, it's obvious he wants to go there. And the problem is, at this point, the Knicks don't have it because they gave all their draft picks to the Nets for Mikal Bridges. So it's going to be tough. They're going to have to get at least a third team involved to make that work. But although, wouldn't it be funny if the Knicks found a way and that third team happened to be Brooklyn?
Oh, God.
All right, Klim, you good?
I'm good.
All right, well, that'll do it for our first show back. Thank you, everybody, for checking us out. You can catch the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you download your podcasts. You can follow Klim on his Facebook page and Instagram. You can follow me at my Moffett on the Mic page on Instagram, as well as on Facebook. So as we said before, next week we're going to have our good buddy Jake Asman from ESPN Radio joining us. We're going to talk everything New York Jets, probably get into some John Harbaugh stuff as well with the Giants, and we'll probably get into a few other stuff. Jake's going to be pretty fired up, as he's been fired up all over social media, ripping Aaron Glenn every chance he gets. Carragher, thanks for checking out the show as always. We love you, bro. And that's it. So on behalf of Klim, this is Craig. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And have a good week. And we will see you again next week.